Imagine discovering a dog in the scorching desert, its head barely visible above the sand, fighting for each breath. This isn't fiction, it's happening right now in backyards and remote areas across America. In the next few minutes, I'll take you on an emotional journey that will change how you see the bond between humans and animals forever. You'll witness the incredible story of Ranger and Aiden, a tale of cruelty transformed into a nationwide movement of compassion. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Let me know if you've ever had a special connection with an animal that changed your life. Now, let's begin with Blake Harrison, a wealthy businessman whose split-second judgment would set in motion events nobody could have predicted. Blake Harrison stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Calabasas mansion, absent-mindedly swirling a glass of 18-year-old Macallan as he surveyed his empire. At 42, the tech mogul had everything money could buy. The sprawling 5-acre estate with its manicured gardens, the vintage car collection in the 12-car garage, and the beautiful family that completed the picture-perfect American dream. His wife Vanessa had insisted on getting the pitbull for security after a series of break-ins had plagued their exclusive neighborhood. Blake had reluctantly agreed, though he'd never been an animal person. Ranger was a muscular brindle pitbull with amber eyes that seemed too intelligent, too judging. The dog had bonded with their 3-year-old daughter Emma immediately, following her everywhere with devoted vigilance that Blake found excessive. "Daddy, watch me." Emma's voice carried across the backyard where she played near the garden, her blonde curls bouncing in the California sunshine. Blake smiled and waved, turning back to his important call with investors. "Yes, we're looking at a Q3 launch if the prototype testing goes as planned," he continued, glancing occasionally at Emma through the window. Ranger lay in the shade nearby, alert as always. Blake frowned. He'd told Maria, the nanny, to watch Emma, but she was nowhere to be seen. The piercing scream shattered the tranquility like a bullet. Blake dropped his phone, racing through the French doors onto the limestone patio. "Emma! Emma!" he shouted, heart hammering against his ribs. The sight stopped him cold. Emma lay on the ground crying, blood streaming from a gash on her arm. Ranger stood over her, his muzzle seemingly wet with something dark. "Get away from her!" Blake roared, sprinting toward them. Ranger backed away, tail tucked between his legs. Blake scooped Emma into his arms, her tiny body trembling against his chest. "That monster bit her!" Vanessa screamed, appearing beside them in her yoga clothes, face contorted with horror. "I told you we should have gotten a golden retriever." "The dog, Maria stammered, rushing from inside the house, eyes wide with panic. "Call 911. Blake barked at her, pressing his designer shirt against Emma's wound. His vision tunneled with fury as he glared at Ranger, who stood a few feet away, whimpering softly. "I trusted you around my daughter," Blake hissed at the dog. "This is how you repay us." As the ambulance arrived and paramedics attended to Emma, Blake pulled his estate manager aside, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Get rid of that animal. I don't care how, just make it suffer like my daughter did." The manager, Jeffrey, shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, shouldn't we verify what happened first?" "Maybe. Are you questioning me?" Blake's eyes narrowed to slits. "That beast attacked my daughter. I saw the blood on its mouth. It's a danger to my family, and I want it punished. Is that clear?" Jeffrey nodded stiffly, knowing better than to argue with Blake Harrison when his mind was made up. Hours later at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, as doctors stitched Emma's wound, not once did Blake consider checking the security footage or notice the garden rake with its rusty tines lying exactly where Emma had fallen. His pride and rage had already sealed Ranger's fate. The Mojave Desert stretched endlessly under the merciless afternoon sun, its sand shimmering like molten glass at 105 degrees. Jeffrey Winters drove the company SUV deep into this desolate landscape, followed by a dusty pickup truck carrying 3 of Blake Harrison's groundskeepers. In the back of the SUV, inside a metal crate, Ranger panted heavily, confused and dehydrated. "This is insane," muttered Miguel, the head groundskeeper, as they finally stopped. "I've done some questionable things for Mr. Harrison before, but this..." His weathered face creased with concern as he looked at the shovel in his hands. Jeffrey wiped sweat from his brow, his expensive button-down soaked through. "You think I don't know that? But you've seen him when he's like this." The last guy who defied him couldn't get a job flipping burgers in this state afterward. The men unloaded Ranger, who wagged his tail hopefully when he saw familiar faces. The pitbull's trusting eyes made Jeffrey's stomach turn. Just remember, Jeffrey instructed, Mr. Harrison was specific. The head stays above ground. For 2 hours, they dug in the baking heat, creating a narrow hole deep enough for Ranger's body. The dog watched them work, occasionally barking, perhaps thinking this was some strange game. "You're sure it was the dog?" Miguel asked, leaning on his shovel. "I've never seen him aggressive, not once." Jeffrey hesitated. Blake said he saw blood on his mouth. "That don't mean nothing," said Tomas, the youngest of the crew. "Could have been trying to help." "Look," Jeffrey snapped, "we're not paid to ask questions. We're paid to follow orders." When the hole was ready, Jeffrey pulled out a syringe. "This is a mild sedative. Not enough to kill him, just enough to make this easier." Ranger whimpered as the needle pierced his skin. As the drug took effect, the men lowered his increasingly limp body into the hole, positioning his head above ground level. Miguel worked silently, tears tracking clean lines down his dust-covered face as they shoveled sand back around the dog's body. "Mr. Harrison said to leave some water," Jeffrey said, placing a shallow bowl near Ranger's exposed head. "Enough to prolong this, but not enough to save him." "This is torture," Tomas whispered, looking away. "This is what happens when you cross Blake Harrison," Jeffrey replied flatly, though his hands trembled slightly. He said the dog would feel what his daughter felt: fear and pain. As they packed up their equipment, Ranger's sedated whimpers grew fainter. The desert would do the rest, slowly cooking the animal in the day's heat, freezing him at night, until dehydration and exposure finished what they had started. "We were never here," Jeffrey reminded them as they climbed back into their vehicles. "This never happened." But as they drove away, the image of Ranger's head poking out of the sand haunted each man, a living grave monument to human cruelty. And unknown to them, Miguel's conscience would soon crack, his anonymous tip to a former co-worker setting in motion events that would eventually lead back to Blake Harrison's doorstep. In the distance, a dust devil twisted skyward, as if the desert itself were protesting the injustice buried in its sands. The sleepy town of Boulder City, Nevada sat on the edge of the Mojave like a reluctant guardian. Here, in a modest blue ranch house with peeling paint, 12-year-old Aiden Cooper woke with a start. The first rays of dawn filtered through his Star Wars curtains, but something was wrong. The familiar weight of Luna, his 3-year-old border collie mix, wasn't pressed against his legs. "Luna," Aiden called, throwing off his covers. He padded barefoot through the small house, checking all of Luna's favorite spots: under the kitchen table, by the back door, in the laundry room. Nothing. His mother, Sarah, was already at work, the early shift at Desert Hope Medical Center where she was a nurse. His older sister Megan's door was closed. She wouldn't be up for hours. Aiden stood in the kitchen, a knot forming in his stomach when he noticed the torn screen on the back door. "No, no, no," he muttered, pushing the door open. The yard gate swung loosely in the morning breeze. It hadn't been properly latched last night. Luna was gone. Aiden threw on clothes and sneakers, grabbed his backpack, and filled it with essentials: a water bottle, Luna's favorite treats, her leash, and his phone with its perpetually cracked screen. He scribbled a note to Megan. "Luna got out. Gone to find her. Call me when you wake up." The morning air already carried the promise of brutal heat to come. Boulder City was stirring. Early risers walking to the local diner, sprinklers ticking rhythmically on neat lawns. Aiden jogged down Elm Street, calling Luna's name, scanning yards and alleyways. Mr. Gunderson was watering his prize roses when Aiden approached. "Have you seen Luna? She got out last night." The elderly man shook his head. "Sorry, son, but check with Dave at the gas station. That man sees everything that moves through this town." By mid-morning, the temperature had climbed to 95 degrees. Dave at the Shell station hadn't seen Luna, but a woman buying coffee thought she'd spotted a dog matching Luna's description heading toward the desert trails. "Kid, you shouldn't be out there alone," Dave warned, handing Aiden a free Gatorade. "That's not safe hiking weather." "I'll be careful," Aiden promised, already backing away. "Luna's not used to the heat. She needs me." The desert trail started where civilization ended, a dusty path winding between scrubby bushes and rocky outcroppings. Aiden's sneakers crunched on the sun-baked earth as he called Luna's name until his voice grew hoarse. His phone buzzed. "Megan, where are you?" she demanded. "Mom's going to kill us both." "I think Luna went into the desert," Aiden explained. "I'm on the trail past the old turquoise mine." "Aiden Cooper, you turn around right now? I'll drive out to get you. That desert is dangerous." "I can't leave her out here," he said, voice cracking. "She's scared of thunder, Meg. There was that storm last night. That's probably why she ran." 30 minutes, Megan conceded. "I'm coming in Dad's truck. If you don't find her by then, we'll make a plan." Aiden pushed forward, deeper into the desert landscape. Luna was more than a pet. She was his best friend, the one who'd slept beside him through every night since Dad's deployment, the one who seemed to understand when the other kids at school made fun of his too big glasses and secondhand clothes. "Luna," he called, his voice echoing off distant rock formations. "Luna, come home, girl." The desert remained silent except for the occasional skittering of a lizard. Aiden checked his watch, 15 minutes before he had to turn back. As he rounded a large boulder, he saw fresh paw prints in the sand. His heart leaped. "Luna," he shouted with renewed hope, following the tracks deeper into the Mojave, unaware that fate was leading him toward a discovery that would change everything. The sun beat down mercilessly as Aiden followed the paw prints through the increasingly barren landscape. His water bottle was half empty, his t-shirt soaked with sweat, but determination drove him forward. The trail of prints led him around a jagged rock formation and down into a shallow depression where the sand had been disturbed. "Luna," Aiden called again, his voice cracking from thirst and anxiety. The faintest whimper reached his ears, so soft he thought he might have imagined it. Aiden froze, listening intently. There it was again, a weak cry unlike anything Luna would make, coming from somewhere ahead. "Hello," Aiden called, stepping carefully forward. "Luna, is that you, girl?" As he crested a small dune, Aiden's heart nearly stopped. 20 feet ahead, protruding from the sand like some macabre desert plant, was the head of a dog. Not Luna, but a brindle pitbull with a broad face and crusted eyes. The animal's tongue lolled from its mouth, its breathing shallow and labored. "Oh my God," Aiden whispered, dropping to his knees beside the pitbull. The dog's eyes fluttered at his approach, a feeble tail wag displacing a small amount of sand below the surface. Around the dog's exposed neck, the sand had been deliberately packed and formed. This was no accident. Someone had buried this dog alive. "It's okay, buddy," Aiden said softly, unscrewing his water bottle with shaking hands. "I'm going to help you." He poured a small amount of water into his palm, offering it to the dog, who lapped at it weakly. The dog's eyes, a deep amber, regarded Aiden with both fear and hope. "Who did this to you?" Aiden whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He dug gently at the sand around the dog's neck, but quickly realized the animal was buried deep. This would require tools and more hands than his alone. Pulling out his phone, Aiden's heart sank. No signal. The location was too remote. "I'm coming back for you," he promised, looking directly into the pitbull's eyes. "I swear I will. Just hang on a little longer." Aiden emptied his remaining water into the shallow bowl someone had cruelly left nearby. He positioned his backpack to provide what little shade it could for the dog's head, then marked the location on his phone's GPS app for when service returned. "My name is Aiden," he told the dog, gently stroking its head. "I don't know yours yet, but I'm going to find out. And whoever did this to you is going to pay." The dog made a soft noise, almost like a sigh of resignation. Its eyes, though clouded with suffering, held a dignity that broke Aiden's heart. As he rose to leave, conflicted about abandoning the dog even temporarily, he heard the distant sound of a truck horn, Megan looking for him. Aiden took one last look at the pitbull, trying to convey a promise without words, then sprinted toward the sound, his mind racing with plans. "Megan," he shouted as he ran. "Megan, I need help." When his sister's truck finally came into view, Aiden was already formulating what to say, who to call, how to save this dog that the desert had revealed to him. He couldn't have known that the pitbull, whose name tag buried beneath the sand read Ranger, would become the center of a storm that would engulf an entire community. Behind him, in its sandy prison, Ranger closed his eyes, conserving what little strength remained, somehow sensing that his salvation had arrived in the form of a boy with two big glasses and a heart even bigger. You found what? Megan's expression shifted from anger to disbelief as Aiden tumbled into the passenger seat of their father's old Ford pickup, breathless and frantic. A dog, buried alive, just its head sticking out of the sand. Aiden grabbed her arm. We need shovels, water, and blankets. Now. Megan shook her head. Slow down, Aiden. Are you sure it wasn't just? I'm not making this up. His voice cracked with frustration. Someone deliberately buried him. He's dying out there, Meg. We have to help him. The determination in her little brother's eyes convinced Megan enough to drive toward the coordinates on his phone. When they reached the spot where the trail became too narrow for the truck, she cut the engine. Wait here. I'll check it out first. There's no time. Aiden protested, already jumping out with the small emergency shovel from the truck bed. They hiked for 15 minutes before Aiden pointed. There, by my backpack. Megan gasped when she saw the pit bull's head protruding from the desert floor. Holy shit, she whispered. Who would do something like this? They worked quickly, Megan calling 911 as Aiden began carefully digging around Ranger's neck. The 911 operator sounded skeptical. You're saying someone buried a dog in the desert? Alive? Are you sure this isn't some kind of prank call? It's not a prank. Megan snapped. We're at the coordinates I just texted you. This is animal cruelty, and we need help. Ma'am, all our officers are currently responding to a multi-car accident on Highway 93. Animal control can be dispatched when resources become available. When resources become. This dog is dying. Megan ended the call in frustration. Unbelievable. Back in Boulder City, their pleas continued to fall on deaf ears. Dr. Phillips at the local vet clinic shook his head regretfully. I'm sorry, but without payment up front, I can't take in another rescue. Last month nearly bankrupted me. The sheriff's deputy they found at the diner was equally unhelpful. File a report, and we'll look into it when we can. But without evidence of who did it, the dog is the evidence. Aiden shouted, drawing stares from other diners. Every minute we waste. Keep your voice down, son, the deputy warned. Look, even if we find who did it, animal cruelty is often just a misdemeanor. At the hardware store, where they'd gone to buy proper shovels, Mr. Langley, the owner, finally showed interest. A pit bull, you say? Brindle coat? He asked, leaning on the counter. There was a story on the local news. Some rich guy from Calabasas had a dog attack his daughter. I think it was a pit bull. This dog isn't an attacker, Aiden insisted. Someone tried to murder him. You kids watch too many movies, Larry Burton scoffed from the next aisle. Probably just a stray that got caught in a sandstorm. Aiden felt tears of frustration burning his eyes. Nobody's listening. That dog is suffering right now while everyone just talks. Megan put her arm around her brother. We'll figure this out, Aiden. I promise. As they left the store with their shovels, they almost collided with Miguel Rodriguez, who was buying gardening supplies. Sorry, Megan muttered, then noticed the man's uniform shirt with Harrison Estate embroidered on the pocket. Miguel overheard their conversation about the buried pit bull and froze, his face draining of color. Where did you say you found this dog? He asked quietly, glancing around nervously. Aiden studied the man's face. You know something about this, don't you? Miguel hesitated, years of loyalty to his employer warring with the guilt that had been eating at him since yesterday. Meet me behind the store in 5 minutes, he whispered. And don't tell anyone we talked. Aiden and Megan exchanged glances, a flicker of hope igniting. Finally, someone was willing to listen. Miguel Rodriguez sat in his rusted Chevy Silverado behind the hardware store, fingers drumming nervously on the steering wheel. When Aiden and Megan approached, he motioned them inside quickly, checking his mirrors for watching eyes. I worked for Blake Harrison for 8 years, Miguel began, his voice barely above a whisper. Good pay, but the man treats his staff like we're disposable. 3 days ago, his daughter got hurt in the garden. Mr. Harrison blamed the family dog, Ranger. The pit bull we found, Aiden said, connecting the dots. Miguel nodded grimly. Jeffrey, the estate manager, made us bury him in the desert. Said Mr. Harrison wanted the dog to suffer. His voice cracked. I've been sick about it ever since. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. That dog never hurt nobody. We need to save him now, Megan insisted. But we need help. The police won't prioritize it, and we can't do it alone. Miguel hesitated, then pulled out his phone. I know some people. Ex-Harrison employees who'd love to stick it to that man. Give me an hour. Word spread through Boulder City like wildfire among a specific group, former Harrison Estate workers with their own stories of Blake's ruthlessness. By mid-afternoon, a convoy of 5 vehicles loaded with shovels, water, blankets, and a makeshift stretcher headed toward the desert coordinates. Tomas Alvarez, who'd helped bury Ranger, was among them. "I should have refused," he told Aiden as they bumped along the desert trail. "I was afraid of losing my job, my visa. But that's no excuse." Elena Diaz, once the Harrison family cook until Blake fired her for requesting time off for her daughter's quinceanera, had brought medical supplies. "My brother's a vet tech. He told me what we'll need." The unlikely rescue team reached Ranger as the sun began its descent. The pitbull's condition had deteriorated, his breathing shallow, eyes unfocused. But when Aiden knelt beside him, Ranger's tail made the faintest movement beneath the sand. "He's still fighting," Aiden announced. "Let's get him out of here." They worked methodically, careful not to let the sand collapse around the dog. Miguel directed the effort, his landscaping experience proving invaluable as they excavated around Ranger's body. Slowly, slowly. Elena cautioned as they finally reached Ranger's chest. His skin might be damaged from pressure and heat. After 45 minutes of careful digging, they freed enough of Ranger to assess his condition. The dog's body was severely dehydrated, his muscles atrophied from confinement. When they finally lifted him onto the stretcher, a collective gasp went through the group. Ranger's body was covered in pressure sores, and his legs were raw from desperate attempts to free himself. "This wasn't just cruelty," said Frank Winters, Jeffrey's cousin and former Harrison security guard. "This was torture, pure and simple." As they carried Ranger back to the vehicles, Frank made a call. "Hey, it's me. Remember that security footage you said Harrison wanted deleted? The backyard incident? Don't. I want every frame preserved." Back in town, Dr. Maya Patel had kept her small veterinary clinic open after hours, defying her corporate management. "Bring him in through the back," she instructed when the convoy arrived. "I could lose my job for this, but some things matter more." While Dr. Patel worked to stabilize Ranger, the group gathered in the clinic's waiting room. What had started as a rescue mission was transforming into something more, a community united against injustice. "We need to make this public," said Elena, her voice firm. "Harrison can't be allowed to get away with this." Frank nodded, holding up his phone. "I've got a friend at the Las Vegas Sunday. She's on her way." Aiden watched through the clinic window as Dr. Patel inserted 4 fluids into Ranger's front leg. The pit bull's eyes found Aiden's, and something passed between them. A connection forged in the desert heat, a promise kept. "He's going to make it," Megan assured her brother, squeezing his shoulder. "This isn't just about saving one dog anymore," Aiden replied, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "It's about making sure this never happens to anyone else." Outside, more cars were pulling up, neighbors, friends, strangers who'd heard the story and wanted to help. Boulder City was coming together, proving that even in the desert, compassion could bloom. The waiting room of Boulder City Animal Clinic had transformed into an impromptu command center by morning. Plastic chairs were filled with volunteers taking shifts, laptops balanced on knees, cell phones constantly buzzing with updates. What began as a rescue mission had evolved into a movement overnight, fueled by social media and outrage. "How's he doing?" Aiden asked Dr. Patel as she emerged from the treatment room, dark circles under her eyes after monitoring Ranger through the night. "He's a fighter," she replied, removing her glasses to rub her tired eyes. "The 4 fluids are helping with the dehydration, but he's not out of the woods yet. The heat exposure caused significant damage." Cassandra Rivera, the Las Vegas Sun reporter Frank had contacted, sat in the corner interviewing Miguel and Tomas, her recorder capturing their testimonies about Blake Harrison's orders. Her photographer documented Ranger's condition, the images already making their way online with hashtags like #JusticeForRanger and #HarrisonCruelty. "We've got something," Frank announced, rushing through the clinic door with a flash drive in hand. "My buddy and Harrison's security team just sent this over." The group huddled around Megan's laptop as Frank inserted the drive and pulled up the security footage from the Harrison estate. The video, crystal clear from high-end surveillance cameras, showed the backyard from multiple angles on the day of the incident. "There's Emma." Aiden pointed to the screen where Blake's daughter played near the garden, Ranger lying peacefully nearby under a tree. The footage continued, showing Emma running toward a garden rake that had been left leaning against a decorative boulder. As she grabbed it, the rake fell, its rusty tines catching her arm as she tumbled to the ground. Ranger immediately jumped up, racing to the screaming child. "Look!" Elena gasped. "He's trying to help her." The video clearly showed Ranger licking Emma's wound, a natural dog behavior to clean an injury. Moments later, Blake Harrison appeared, misinterpreting the scene entirely. "He never attacked her," Miguel said, shaking his head in disgust. "He was trying to help, and Harrison sentenced him to die for it." Cassandra was already typing furiously on her phone. "This changes everything. It's not just animal cruelty now. It's falsifying reports to police." Harrison told authorities the dog attacked his daughter. While the adults discussed legal implications, Aiden slipped away to the treatment room where Ranger lay on a bed of blankets, tubes running from his legs to 4 bags. The pitbull's eyes opened as Aiden approached, his tail thumping weakly against the blankets. "We know the truth now," Aiden told him softly, kneeling beside the bed. "Everyone's going to know you're innocent." Outside, the crowd had grown. Local TV stations had arrived, setting up cameras in the parking lot. News of a wealthy businessman burying his dog alive for a crime it didn't commit had spread far beyond Boulder City. Sheriff Coleman arrived shortly after noon, his expression grim as he watched the security footage. "This is solid evidence of false reporting," he confirmed. Combined with animal cruelty charges, Mr. Harrison is facing serious consequences. By late afternoon, the clinic had become the epicenter of a media storm. Animal rights activists arrived from Las Vegas, setting up a vigil outside. Donations for Ranger's care poured in from across the country as the story hit national news outlets. Inside the treatment room, Dr. Patel allowed a single-camera crew to document Ranger's condition. "This dog endured unimaginable suffering," she explained, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "The fact that he still responds positively to human interaction shows extraordinary resilience." As darkness fell, the clinic doors opened to reveal 2 suited men from the district attorney's office, accompanied by Sheriff Coleman. "We've just come from the Harrison estate," the lead investigator announced. "Blake Harrison has been taken into custody on multiple charges, including aggravated animal cruelty, filing false police reports, and obstruction of justice." A cheer erupted from the gathered crowd, but was quickly silenced when Dr. Patel's assistant rushed out from the treatment room. "Dr. Patel needs help. Ranger's crashing." The celebration turned to tense silence as the veterinary team worked frantically to stabilize the pit bull whose fight for justice had only just begun. Outside, Aiden sat on the clinic steps, his head in his hands, praying to whatever forces might be listening that the dog who had already survived the unthinkable could survive this too. The Boulder City Animal Clinic buzzed with tension as Dr. Patel and her team worked through the night to stabilize Ranger. Outside, the impromptu vigil had grown, with strangers holding candles and homemade signs demanding justice. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching skyward like mechanical flowers seeking signal instead of sun. "He's stable," Dr. Patel finally announced at dawn, emerging from the treatment room with bloodshot eyes and shoulders slumped from exhaustion. His body was simply overwhelmed by the rehydration process. "We've adjusted his 4 fluids and added some medications to help his heart." The collective relief was palpable. Aiden, who had refused to leave despite his mother's insistence, broke into tears. "Can I see him?" he asked, voice cracking. Dr. Patel nodded, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Just for a minute. He needs rest." Inside the dimly lit treatment room, Ranger lay on his side, his chest rising and falling in a more regular rhythm than before. Monitors beeped softly, tracking his vital signs. When Aiden approached, Ranger's tail moved in weak recognition. "You're famous now," Aiden whispered, carefully petting the dog's head. "Everyone knows you're a hero, not a villain." In the waiting room, turned command center, turned media hub, Cassandra Rivera was conducting a live interview with Miguel and Frank for the morning news. The security footage had gone viral overnight, shared millions of times across social platforms, with celebrities and politicians weighing in on the case. "The arraignment is set for 10 a.m., Sheriff Coleman informed the group, hanging up his phone. Harrison's attorneys are already pushing for bail, claiming he's not a flight risk. "Not a flight risk," Elena scoffed. "The man has a private jet and property in 3 countries. Outside the courthouse in Las Vegas, the scene resembled a circus. Protesters from animal rights organizations chanted for maximum sentencing, while a smaller group of business associates held signs supporting Harrison, claiming the media had distorted the facts. Security kept the groups separated as tensions ran high. Inside, courtroom 3B was packed to capacity when Blake Harrison entered in handcuffs, his designer suit exchanged for standard jail attire, his normally perfect hair disheveled. The confident swagger had vanished, replaced by a wary glance around the courtroom. Judge Marilyn Ortega, known for her no-nonsense approach, studied the charges before her. "Mr. Harrison, you are charged with aggravated animal cruelty, filing false police reports, and obstruction of justice. How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor," Harrison replied, his voice lacking its usual authority. The prosecutor, District Attorney Sandra Chun, approached the bench. "Your Honor, the state requests Mr. Harrison be held without bail. The defendant's actions show extreme cruelty and calculation. Furthermore, with his substantial resources, he presents a significant flight risk." Harrison's attorney, James Westfield, countered with practiced ease. "My client is a respected businessman with deep ties to the community. This unfortunate incident has been grossly mischaracterized by a media frenzy." As the arguments continued, the proceedings were suddenly interrupted by commotion at the courtroom doors. Sheriff Coleman entered, approaching the bench with a folder. "Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but we've just executed a search warrant on Mr. Harrison's estate and discovered additional evidence relevant to these proceedings." The evidence included text messages between Harrison and Jeffrey, explicitly ordering Ranger's torturous burial, and subsequent messages threatening the staff with consequences if they ever spoke about what happened. Judge Ortega's expression hardened as she reviewed the new evidence. "Bail denied. Mr. Harrison will remain in custody until trial." As Harrison was led away, he locked eyes with Aiden, who sat in the back row beside Megan. The businessman's gaze held nothing but cold contempt for the boy who had unraveled his carefully constructed world. Back at the rescue center, the attention was shifting from justice to healing. Veterinary specialists had arrived from Las Vegas and Phoenix, offering their services pro bono. Animal behaviorists observed Ranger's interactions, amazed that despite his trauma, he showed no aggression toward humans. "Dogs live in the present," explained Dr. Reyes, the behavioral specialist. "They can overcome trauma in ways humans often can't. With proper care and trust building, Ranger could have a full recovery, physically and emotionally." As media coverage intensified, donations poured in from across the country. What started as a fund for one dog's medical care had ballooned into something much larger, raising questions about what would happen next. That evening, as Aiden sat beside Ranger's bed reading aloud from The Call of the Wild, his choice of appropriate literature, Sarah Cooper watched her son with pride and concern. "You know we can't keep him," she said gently when Aiden took a break. "Our apartment doesn't allow pets, especially not ones as big as Ranger." Aiden nodded slowly. "I know, but I've been thinking about something bigger than just one home for one dog." His mother raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning in that mind of yours?" Aiden looked down at Ranger, who had fallen asleep with his head resting against the boy's leg. "Something that will help a lot more animals than just Ranger. Something that will make sure this never happens again." The seeds of transformation were being planted, not just for one dog and one boy, but for an entire community awakening to both the cruelty and compassion humans were capable of. The weeks following Blake Harrison's arraignment brought dramatic changes to Ranger's life and the small community of Boulder City. As April turned to May, the pitbull who had been left to die in the desert sand began a remarkable transformation. "His blood work is finally showing normal values," Dr. Patel announced during one of Ranger's checkups, 6 weeks after his rescue. "The pressure sores have healed completely, and he's gained back most of the weight he lost." Aiden, who visited Ranger every day after school, beamed with pride. He had been there through every milestone. The first time Ranger stood on his own, his first tentative steps around the clinic, the first playful bark that had everyone in tears. "He knows he's safe now," Aiden said, scratching behind Ranger's ears. The pitbull leaned into the touch, his amber eyes bright and alert, a far cry from the desperate creature they'd found in the desert. The viral nature of Ranger's story had attracted national attention. Morning shows featured segments on his recovery, and a documentary crew from Animal Planet had set up in Boulder City to chronicle his journey. Blake Harrison's trial date was set for August, with prosecutors confident in their case as more staff came forward with stories of abuse and cruelty. Meanwhile, Sarah Cooper had been meeting with lawyers, financial advisors, and local officials. The Ranger Recovery Fund had amassed over $500,000 in donations, far more than needed for one dog's medical bills. "We've secured the old Watson property on the edge of town," Sarah explained to a small group gathered in their living room. Miguel, Elena, Frank, Dr. Patel, and several other key figures from the rescue effort listened intently. 5 acres with the existing buildings. The town council unanimously approved our proposal for rezoning. Architectural drawings spread across the coffee table showed plans for the Ranger Sanctuary, a rehabilitation center for abused and neglected animals, with a special focus on breeds often stigmatized, like pit bulls. "We'll have room for 20 dogs initially," Sarah continued, with plans to expand to include other animals. Dr. Patel has agreed to oversee the medical facilities part-time. "And I've got 15 former Harrison Estate workers ready to volunteer," Miguel added. Some of them have construction experience for the renovations. The sanctuary took shape over the summer, transforming the abandoned property into a haven. Community volunteers painted buildings, built fences, and created play areas. Local businesses donated supplies, and a prominent pet food company offered a year's worth of food for all future residents. Ranger, officially adopted by the Cooper family after the city council granted a special exemption to their apartment's no-pet policy, accompanied Aiden to the sanctuary daily. What amazed everyone was how the once traumatized dog now helped other rescued animals adjust. "He's like a therapy dog for other dogs," Dr. Patel observed, watching Ranger calmly approaching a recently rescued Chihuahua that snapped fearfully at everyone else. He seems to tell them, "I've been where you are. It gets better." By July, Ranger had become something of a celebrity. His social media accounts, managed by Megan, had millions of followers. Children sent drawings of the brave pit bull from all over the world. News outlets reported when Ranger passed his canine good citizen test with perfect scores, formally qualifying him as a therapy dog. The sanctuary's grand opening in early August coincided with the start of Blake Harrison's trial. As media descended on the courthouse in Las Vegas, an equally large crowd gathered at the sanctuary ribbon cutting. "Today marks not just the opening of a building," Aiden said into the microphones, his voice stronger and more confident than anyone had heard before, "but the beginning of a movement." Ranger taught us that healing is possible after the worst cruelty, and that second chances matter. Ranger sat beside him, wearing a custom vest identifying him as the sanctuary's chief canine officer. When Aiden finished speaking, the pit bull placed his paw on the oversized scissors, helping the boy cut the ribbon to thunderous applause. That evening, as the excitement wound down, Sarah found Aiden sitting with Ranger on the sanctuary's new observation deck, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of orange and gold. "I never thought finding a dog buried in the sand would change our whole lives," Aiden said as his mother sat beside him. Sarah smiled, putting an arm around her son. "Sometimes the universe puts us exactly where we need to be, even when we don't know why we're there." Ranger rested his head on Aiden's lap, his eyes half closed in contentment. The desert that had nearly claimed his life stretched before them, a reminder of how far they'd all come. "Tomorrow's the first day the sanctuary is officially open," Aiden said, scratching Ranger's ears. "Are you ready to show the other dogs their new home, buddy?" In response, Ranger's tail thumped rhythmically against the wooden deck, the sound of a heart fully healed, ready to help others find their way to healing too. The one-year anniversary of Ranger's rescue arrived with the Nevada autumn, bringing crisp mornings and golden afternoons to Boulder City. The Ranger Sanctuary, once just an abandoned property on the edge of town, had transformed into a bustling campus of hope and healing. "I still can't believe how much has changed," Aiden remarked, adjusting his new glasses, slim frames that suited his maturing face. At 13, he'd grown 3 inches taller and carried himself with quiet confidence that hadn't existed before Ranger entered his life. Today, the sanctuary was hosting its first national conference on animal welfare and rehabilitation. The parking lot overflowed with vehicles bearing license plates from across the country. Inside the main building, a converted barn with exposed beams and polished concrete floors, representatives from 27 newly established sanctuaries gathered to share knowledge and resources. It's like a ripple effect that keeps growing, Sarah observed, checking her tablet for the day's schedule. As the sanctuary's executive director, she had left her nursing career behind, finding purpose in this unexpected calling. Every month, another community reaches out wanting to create their own version of what we've built here. Ranger, now a healthy 70 pounds of muscle and gleaming brindle coat, padded alongside Aiden through the conference, greeting visitors with his characteristic gentle dignity. The scar tissue from his ordeal had faded, visible only to those who knew where to look. There he is, the dog who launched a movement, called out Gabriela Martinez, founder of Second Chance Sanctuary in Arizona. She knelt to greet Ranger, who responded with a friendly tail wag. Our first rescue was a pitbull someone had used for fighting. We named him Pioneer, after this guy right here. The conference's keynote address was delivered in the outdoor amphitheater, where Dr. Maya Patel presented research on trauma recovery in abused animals. Behind her, a screen displayed before and after photos of Ranger and dozens of other rehabilitation success stories. What we're learning challenges old assumptions about animals' capacity for recovery, Dr. Patel explained to the rapt audience. Dogs previously labeled unadoptable are thriving in environments built on patience and positive reinforcement. As the presentation concluded, Megan Cooper took the stage. Now a freshman at UNLV studying communications, she had become the sanctuary's media director. Today we're launching our national youth education program, she announced. The Ranger ambassadors will bring humane education to schools across America, teaching children about animal welfare, responsible pet ownership, and the link between animal cruelty and other forms of violence. Aiden, seated in the front row with Ranger, felt a surge of pride as his sister outlined the program he had helped design. Through video conferencing, he and Ranger had already spoken to classrooms in 48 states, turning their story into lessons about compassion and justice. After the formal presentations, attendees mingled in the sanctuary's memorial garden, where a bronze statue of Ranger, head raised from the sand, commemorated his journey. Nearby, a wall displayed photos of animals who hadn't survived abuse, a somber reminder of why their work mattered. The Harrison case changed everything, remarked Senator Eleanor Jenkins, who had championed the Ranger Act, reforming animal negligence governance and enforcement regulations through Congress. When the footage of that poor dog in the desert went viral, suddenly people couldn't look away anymore. Blake Harrison's conviction had indeed been a watershed moment in animal cruelty jurisprudence. Sentenced to 5 years in prison, the maximum penalty under strengthened state laws, his case had set precedents cited in courts nationwide. His wealth and influence couldn't shield him from accountability, sending a powerful message that animal cruelty would be taken seriously regardless of the perpetrator's status. As evening approached, the conference transitioned to a celebration. Under strings of lights in the sanctuary's main courtyard, volunteers served a vegetarian dinner while a local band played. Ranger, wearing a special bandana for the occasion, moved among the tables, the perfect host. "You know what amazes me most?" Miguel said to Aiden as they watched the gathering. Now the sanctuary's facilities manager, Miguel had found redemption through his work there. "It's not just what we did for Ranger. It's what he did for all of us." Aiden nodded, understanding completely. He showed us what's possible when people come together instead of looking away. As if on cue, Ranger approached, nudging Aiden's hand, their signal that a new animal had arrived. They walked together to the intake building, where a volunteer was unloading crates from a rescue van. "Three-dog hoarding situation in Henderson," the volunteer explained. "This one's the most frightened." Inside the last crate, a small shepherd mix cowered, eyes wide with fear. Aiden knelt beside the crate, opening it, but not forcing the dog out. Ranger settled beside him, projecting calm. "It's okay," Aiden told the trembling dog. "You're safe now. This is where second chances begin." As the shepherd cautiously sniffed Ranger, then allowed a brief touch from Aiden, the cycle of healing continued. From one dog buried in desert sand had grown a nationwide movement of compassion and change, proving that even the darkest acts of cruelty could could give rise to extraordinary light. Across America, sanctuaries modeled after rangers stood as monuments to the difference one boy and one dog had made, a difference that continued to grow with each animal saved, each child educated, each community transformed by the simple, profound belief that every living creature deserves dignity, compassion, and a chance to rise from the sand. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and if you've watched this far, comment, "I watched until the end," and share your thoughts about this story. Also, don't forget to watch the next video that appears in the end screen. It's very emotional.